Welcome to the Mom and podcast. We're your hosts, Suzanne Kearns
and Missy Stevens. We want to help you through everything that happens in the ellipses, from your professional life to your emotional health.
You're a mom and so much more. Let's figure out what comes next together.
Welcome to the Mom and podcast. I'm Missy Stevens, mom and writer, foster child advocate, and this week, a volunteer in need of a recharge. And if you know, you know.
Oh my gosh. I don't
It's just
know,
exhausting
but
sometimes.
I know vicariously through you. You're the reason I don't volunteer anymore. I figure you're doing enough for both of us.
Whatever, you volunteer.
And I'm Suzanne Kearns, mom and writer, LGBTQ and sex ed advocate. And today I am celebrating 1 month of vertigo by taking some random steroid that my doctor gave me. And I literally just took it before we hopped on this call so y'all can observe me because Chris is out of town and I need someone to know if I don't make it. So you keep an eye on me.
You're going to make it. You might be a little extra, but you're going to make it.
That's what he said. He said, don't take it at night because you're going to be like, you feel good. Like, yeah, so maybe I'll clean the house. Who knows? But today we are so excited to have our dear friend, Kristin Shaw with us. Kristin Shaw grew up attending classic car shows with her parents, and she has a soft spot in her heart for a 1957 Chevy Bel Air, preferably in turquoise.
Yeah.
I know. So cute. Her corporate background specialties were telecommunications, technology, and aviation before she traded strategy meetings for freelance writing. Now she writes about technology, aviation, and automotive topics, and her work has been featured by Popular Science, Car and Drive, Motor One, AutoWise, The Washington Post, The Huffington Post, A Girl's Guide to Cars, and more. She also co-hosts an automotive site at drivemodshow.com. A passionate activist for women and families, Kristin founded the Touch a Truck event in Austin, which we need to link to. It's just going to be wrapping up by the time this runs, but such a cool event in Austin that benefits the Safe Alliance, a nonprofit created to help those affected by domestic violence. She also participates as a parent committee member in the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion group for her local school district. And maybe most importantly, she's also the reason that I met Missy and so many other fabulous women in the Austin writing community, and also had the pleasure of co-hosting Listen to Your Mother show together a few years ago. So excited to introduce you all. Well, no, you've been on here once before for one of our...
No, Kristin didn't get to be here that night.
Oh,
that's right.
That's right. Okay.
She was missing.
I was missing.
Okay. Well,
I was traveling.
I'm even more
She wasn't
excited.
actually missing. We all knew where she was. She just wasn't on the show.
But no, we had the rest.
I was somewhere.
We had the rest of our amazing daily text thread of Women in Power on for a Tipsy Ellipses a few months ago. And that's right, Kristin was not there. So now you get your own exclusive, exclusive visit.
It's special.
Welcome. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you. It's so nice to see you both. I mean, Suzanne, as you were talking about how we met, I was just thinking about that coffee we had so many years ago.
At Lola Savannah in Westlake. I'm going to give them a little plug.
I love that place. They have the best chai in town.
Oh, yeah, I do.
I know. And I think it was because you had that Today parenting piece about the weight of your son, and it was going viral. And I think your bio just said, like in Austin, Texas. And I was like, oh, I'm trying to write things. I mean, this was way, way back when I was in my dusty parachute days.
Yeah.
And I didn't know the first thing about... Well, I still don't know that I do know the first thing about writing or the writing community and all the cool people that are around in town doing amazing things. So, and you opened that whole world to me.
Well, it was love at first sight.
I think it's one of Kristin's specialties. So we know you, we love you, but some of our listeners may not have the pleasure of knowing you yet. They will after today. So can you give us kind of a Kristin 101, things we maybe didn't touch on in your bio about where your career started, how it's progressed, and if there were really any big surprises along the way?
So when I graduated from University of Cincinnati with a communications degree, which means you can do just about anything with that. If you're a good communicator, you can do so many different kinds of jobs. My first job was at a hotel front desk. I think I knew somebody that knew somebody at this hotel in Cincinnati. And I was like, well, I got to start somewhere,
Yeah.
So in about 6 months, I convinced the general manager to let me be the assistant manager for human resources. So from
In
there,
2 months?
no, about 6 months.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
I was a really go-getter.
Yeah, the steroids haven't gotten to my ear stuff yet, so
No worries. So I talked my way into getting that job, and my boss was like 25. I was 23. And within a couple of months, she was fired because she was very young and inexperienced. She was awesome lady. So I was like, what do I do? I had to be the intermediate human resources manager for 500 employees until
wow.
they
What?
hired somebody new. Yeah, I had to work with the union. I had to oversee some firings. I was like, I do not know what in the world is going on here.
Oh.
You were a baby.
I was just barely, getting into the corporate world. So, within about a year, I realized that wasn't for me. And I transitioned into sales and marketing on the tech side. And I went to work for SkyTel, I think the paging company. Remember pagers?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh my God, it's just dated myself so hard there. Paging company. And then I got into telecom and stuff like that, and I started traveling. I worked for this Belgian company, and I commuted. I didn't really commute, but I went back and forth between Cincinnati and Brussels a lot. And that's where I really got my love for international travel. So, cut the timeline short, by the time I had my son in 2009, I really wanted to get off the road. Like I'd
Yeah.
been traveling to Europe quite a bit. I didn't want to do that with a baby,
Yeah.
but it just so happened that my husband's business was still growing and it was in no way able to support the family yet. So I had to stay working. And that was a really hard time. But
Yeah.
finally, in 2013, when my son was almost 4, I was able to start freelancing and make the transition. I really made the leap from a six-figure job to doing freelancing, and it's been amazing.
It feels like yesterday that you made that leap, but
It does.
And
It
that
does.
is, I mean, I want to talk a lot about that financially, how you're able to
mhm.
manage that.
Mhm.
It makes a big difference insurance wise, safety net wise.
Yep.
How did you work around that structurally, or how did you think through that process of, okay, was it a spreadsheet? Was it just ongoing discussions? What were those trade-offs?
Well, there really was an impetus to the process. So right after my son was born, he was born in September, and I got my review in January. And by September, when my son was born, I had completed all of my goals. I made all of my key performance indicators, all that corporate speak stuff.
Yeah.
And I got my
Wow.
my review in January, and it was a poor review. And I was like, "What's happening?" I met all of my KPIs before September, like early. I met them all. Well, the performance was on a curve. And my boss, who is French, she said, "Well, it was not your best year." And I said,
What?
"No
I made a
kidding."
person this year.
Yeah, no kidding. So that really, that was kind of the beginning of the end. But by the
Mhm.
time we got to 2013, they'd wanted me to add South America to my territory. I was already covering all of North America and traveling to Europe. I was like, I can't even speak Spanish. Like I can't start traveling to South America. That is not comfortable for me. So I'm like sobbing. I go down to my husband's office downstairs. I'm working from home. And he said, "Babe, I want you to pull yourself together, go back upstairs and call them and resign now." And I was like, "Oh, thank God." You know?
Like, yes,
So
that is the answer.
finally, and he's the king of spreadsheets. So he had figured out by then that we could survive. But even then, I think that was August, and I had planned to stay on through October or November just to work through. And my boss said, "No, you're done. I can clearly see that you are out." And I was like, crap,
Oh,
that's our insurance, that's our income,
Right.
that's my
yes.
everything. But, we just had to roll with it. And within a week, I had my first freelance assignment with Airport Improvement Magazine, and I still write for them.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
you
let's
did.
yeah, let's talk a little bit about that because you do some really interesting areas of writing that I don't think people would necessarily. I'm sure that you are probably in the minority as far as being the female in the automotive and as well as the aeronautic space. But you have such a passion for both of these things that I've just never seen as far as the statistics that you can rattle off for different cars or all this
Yep.
stuff. Like it sounds like you did a lot of that with the automotive shows with your parents growing up. But what is that passion, and where does that come from? And how did you make sure that like that was what you wanted to do with your freelance assignments?
Well, since my corporate background was in aviation technology for the 8 years and before I left to freelance, I had that experience under my belt. And I knew that in order to make that leap, I needed to have a segue, right? So
Mhm.
that was an easy segue. I already knew Airport Improvement Magazine. I had set up meetings with them, with the company I worked for, so probably about a month before I left, I said to Paul, my publisher, met him at an aviation trade show, and I said, "Hey, I'd like to write for you at some point." And he's like, "Okay, here's my information. Call me when you're ready." And like, snap on it. So
Yeah.
that was great. So every month I write a different for every issue. I write a different story for them. It could be about a construction project or a new terminal. It could be about some software that an airport uses. So I was able to leverage my background to that kind of
Yeah.
writing.
Are you coming
Yeah.
up with those topics, or do they come with you and be like, "We've got this new terminal going up. We need a story about."
Paul and our editor, Rebecca, they come up with the topics and assign me.
So
Yeah.
cool.
I mean, I think we know that not every job you've taken has aligned with these passions of yours. We know you've worked really hard to be strategic about finding work and creating a balance with your family life, your writing life, and making it all work for you. Do you have, whether it's a real tactile thing or just in your mind, a method for the way you make decisions about what you'll take and what you won't take? I think a lot of our listeners are probably trying to create a freelance lifestyle where they have a little bit more control, but it's very tempting as someone who's done it before to just take whatever comes your way.
Yeah.
So how do you make a decision so that your mental health stays intact?
Totally. And I've certainly made, I wouldn't call them mistakes, but definitely learning opportunities along the way where I took jobs that were, write 500 words for $35 and, way,
Mhm.
way past at this point. But I wouldn't denigrate those opportunities because you have to start somewhere.
Yep.
And one of the
Yeah.
things that I feel like I did really well, I've kind of fallen off the wagon with this, but I set goals. These are the publications that I want to write for. Washington Post, Huffington Post, you know, check, 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 check. And I wanted to get bylines in those. The only one I didn't get that I wanted on my list was the New York Times. But it's never too late, right?
No. No.
Yes.
That's just still coming.
You hear
Still
that, New
coming.
York Times?
Yeah. I mean, and you really have to work hard. As a freelancer, you guys know this, you have to be used to getting the word no and knowing that no is not final. No
Mm,
is temporary. I mean, I've pitched Haggerty before, and today they're like, "Hey, you're on our radar. Let's talk
That's
about, what you could do." So it is definitely a process. The first time that I saw opportunity in automotive, I mean, I've always loved cars. I'm just fascinated by cars. I had posters of cars and shirtless dudes on my wall in college. So I saw that here in Austin, there's this company that rented out exotic cars like Lamborghini, Ferrari, that kind of
mhm.
thing. And I said, wonder if I could figure out a way to get them to let me drive one of those cars for coverage because I didn't have any money. I'm a freelancer. And so I contacted them and I convinced them to let me write about it in exchange. And they let me drive a Ferrari F430.
oh
And
my
that
god.
was my first car review ever, which is hilarious. Like, who starts with a Ferrari? I did. And from there, I started pitching Scotty Reese at A Girl's Guide to Cars.
Love
Mhm.
Scotty.
Yeah, she's great, and she really helped me get my start. She encouraged me to keep going, and then from there, you just build on it. When you're a freelancer, you start here at those articles that don't pay much or maybe even nothing. And some people will
Yeah.
say, "Oh, you should never do that. You should never give your work away." Well, if you can see giving that work away is going to lead you to the next step, then do it.
Mhm.
And you
Yeah.
build your way up from there, and you keep on asking.
Keep on asking. That's the hard part for me. It's
That's
like,
the
Oh,
"Okay,
hard
said
part.
no. Okay, bye."
no. Aside from the New York Times, are there any other things that are these areas that you want to explore? You've done the automotive, done the Is it aerospace or how would you use it? The airlines,
It's really the airport space,
airport
specifically
space?
within aviation, yeah, because I'm not writing about specs about aircraft. I have, I wrote for the Points Guy, which is this big site that talks about like how to go on vacation on points and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I've written about aircraft design for them, but mostly what I write about is airports, airport technology, and airport construction engineering. So we learn to
So
talk to
interesting.
engineers and
Yeah.
transcribe it and make it, I think because my background is in tech and communications,
Uh-huh.
I can take something techie and turn it into something palatable, something that people can understand.
Right. That's a
Yeah.
great skill. Have you had like dude engineers talk to you like you're a dum dum?
No, not really. Honestly,
Okay.
especially not in aviation. In automotive, I've definitely come across a couple of guys who are, car dudes who insist that they know better than everybody, but, it's not up to me to change them. I can just show them that I know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like that. I like that take.
Exactly. No, I mean, that really does. Like every time that there is a knowledgeable, smart woman in the space, that just opens the door. Like you said, Scotty Reese was there for you. You're going to be there for that next generation of
So great.
females who are interested in the space. And did you always know this was your passion? I'm so curious because Missy and I are just talk about dum dums. We are just like we've spent the past 2 years like just trying to figure out what is our passion. What do we want to do? Like, was that just like something that you just knew, or did you work towards that, or like any advice for any of us out there who haven't found the car of our dreams?
As a vehicle for your passion.
Pun intended.
I I guess, when I was a teenager, I thought that I would be a photojournalist for National Geographic. I grew up with
Oh,
National Geographic magazines on the table, and I
yeah.
was like, I want to
Yep.
travel. I want to write. I always knew that I wanted to write. And I had teachers along the way that really encouraged my writing, like Janice Dean, who has the same birthday as my son. And I still visit her when I can.
Oh,
Oh,
She's
that's
my
so
old
neat.
journalism teacher. So it took me a long time to get here. I mean, I just turned 51 last year. And so it's never too late. I feel like reinventing yourself is a skill that you can learn. Then just in the
Ooh.
last 3 years, I got my motorcycle license. I learned how to ski. And then, as I know we'll probably talk about in a second, I'm going to be competing in a 1,500-mile, 8-day off-road rally. So
Yeah.
why not? Why not?
Why not? Let's talk about the rally now. We cannot like we our plan today was to not let you leave without talking about it, but let's just talk about it now. Like tell
Okay.
everybody, is it Rebel or Rebel?
Rebel. It's called the
Rebel.
Rebel Rally. It's in its seventh year. And it was started by Emily Miller, who is an off-roading champion, just an amazing woman. She started this rally to show women what they're capable of doing. So this starts in Nevada, north of Lake Tahoe. We're going to be driving all on public lands off-road for 8 days. But here's the kicker. There's no phones, no navigation. So we have to
Oh.
go with topographic maps and plotters, latitude, longitude points. And, they put a satellite tracker on us in case we get lost. But,
That's very
Good.
kind.
thank
I'm
God.
sitting here thinking I would
I
be so
know.
lost.
I know.
Ooh.
And we've been learning how to do all of that stuff and wearing a helmet all day because you got to be safe. So I went and covered this last year as a journalist. And I
Mhm.
was so impressed by the way the women supported each other. The teams help each other. They're all teams of two. And just the vibe was so powerful. And I thought, I have to try this. So when my friend
Yeah.
Jill Simonillo asked me if I wanted to partner with her, because she knew that I was kind of interested, I was like, yes, let's do it. So we pitched Hyundai. And speaking of women supporting us and supporting each other, it was Lori Schultz and Sarah Fullman who said, yes, let's do this. We will give you a vehicle. We're going to give you the Hyundai Santa Cruz that we requested, and they're sponsored the entrance fee, which is like $12,000. That covers all the
Oh my gosh.
safety and the food and the base camps and stuff. And then we got Bose to sponsor us, and she buys travel. And then we've got these other gear places that are helping us kit out the Santa Cruz so that it's good to go for 8 days.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what has to happen to the car. We're all of a sudden a car podcast, but you can't just drive a regular Hyundai Santa Cruz.
We
Like,
could. We totally
You could
could.
do that?
You
Okay.
could, yeah. There's an X-Cross class and there's a bone stock class, which means that bone stock means you take it like you could take it right out of the dealership. Like you could take a Toyota 4Runner right out of the dealership and take it off road.
Oh,
But this Hyundai Santa Cruz is not known for being it. In case you don't know what they look like, it looks like kind of like a modern El Camino. You know, it's got like the SUV in the front and the truck bed in the back
Mm-hmm.
with a
okay. No,
cover
I
on
know
it. It's really cool little vehicle. And so they put some skid plates on the bottom. A skid plate's like it keeps the underbelly from getting damaged. You like armor, you
that.
know,
Got
Right.
keep your belly from getting damaged. And then there's a roof rack where we've got a 70-pound tire up there, a spare tire. We've got these things called max tracks, which help you dig out of the sand. We've got shovels. We've got an air compressor so that we can air down for the sand. We're going to be driving in the sand dunes. I mean, it's going to be such an epic adventure. And we're
Yes.
camping along the way, camping in a tent.
Oh my
Oh
God.
my gosh.
What the heck?
Okay, you're not allowed to have your phone, but are you allowed to take a camera? Like, I want to see every bit of this.
You do document it, right?
Well, they have amazing photographers and videographers that
Okay.
follow along and take tons of pictures. And it's kind of like a mom at summer camp. Like people can follow along. If you go to rebelrally.com and you sign up for the newsletter, you'll get the pictures every day of where we are. And you can see where we can track exactly where we are. And you'll be able to see us like, are we smiling? Do they look like they're having fun? You know?
Can we airlift care packages in?
Oh my God.
I feel like they need
Yes.
Lots of
treats.
snacks.
Can we
Lots of
deliver
snacks.
food baskets?
Yeah.
Oh,
So I have this
my-
amazing partner, and we just went to training a couple weeks ago. Luckily, I had one day of training with the engineer, and then the next day I tested positive for COVID. So Jill had to do the training by herself, and I was stuck in the hotel room, and I did the navigation training via Zoom.
Oh my gosh.
Such
So
a bummer. I
it's a
know. We
bummer.
were there virtually with you in the
Oh,
hotel
no.
room, and it's such a bummer. But that is the nice thing about doing it with a partner, is that I'm sure even once you're in the car and doing the rally, you'll be able to lean on each other as needed, if someone's having an off day or just
Yeah.
needs a rest.
Sure.
Yep, we even have a safe word. It's called watermelon, in case one person's being a jackhole, you know? Hey, watermelon.
Oh my
I always
god.
think about that. We always watch, I know Suzanne does too. We haven't watched in a while, but The Amazing Race. And Mark and I would talk about, could we do this and not like embarrass the crap out of ourselves on national television? Because we are great together. We've been together 1,000 years. We know our roles. We do it. But it's still like in the heat of the moment, sometimes people are not nice and lose it a little bit. And maybe we
Yes.
need to get a safe word.
Safe word.
Watermelon.
I'm telling you, me and my husband could not do this, but Jill and I figured out that she is a lot like my husband, and I am a lot like her husband in terms of temperament. So we already know how to handle that.
Have you spent time together extended besides this trip before?
Yeah, we did a 4 or 5 day training in April.
Okay.
And so Jill and I got together, and Jill started this online group called Fight Club with several journalists that we're friends with, you know, and just supporting each other. You know, and that was during the pandemic. So we've really gotten to be close. And she is such a caring and wonderful person. I know we're going to probably get snappy at each other at some point, but like we're ready to forgive and just do our best. You know, this is not about winning. This is about learning.
You're
Oh
going to
my-
get tired. You're going to get
Oh my
hungry
God,
and
yeah.
things aren't going to work. And yeah, just as
Yes.
long as you're prepared for that.
Missy, I tried to picture the two of us, two Enneagram 9s, trying to get shit done in tough situations. We'd be like, "It's okay, Missy. I know you're doing your best. Should we both just take a nap?"
Should we go left or should we go right? I don't know.
I don't know. What
Doesn't
do you
matter.
think?
It's kind of a miracle this podcast ever gets released because we're both like, it's okay. It's all fine. It's okay.
That's funny.
Oh my goodness. Okay, now I'm off track with our questions.
Which is fine because I really could talk about the Rebel Rally all day. But
I know.
I know what we want to talk about. One thing that comes up a lot in the podcast is the idea of privilege.
Oh yes.
That Suzanne and I are definitely in a place of privilege that allows us to do this podcast, that gives us this room to figure out what our passion is and what we're going to do next. And I think people could hear you talk about what you're doing and think, oh, she's just privileged and she's been able to have this freelance career. And you've touched on it a little bit already, but we know you've worked really hard to get where you are. Have there been any sacrifices that maybe you didn't expect to come along the way, or ones that were especially hard to swallow at the time that now you look back and kind of see, like, I made that sacrifice and it paid off, and now you're glad you did it?
I would say, I mean, the hardest part of our marriage has been the part where I had to keep working in the corporate job,
Mhm.
and it broke my husband's heart. I know, because I would beg him to please, can I please quit? Can I please quit my job? I just want to be with our son.
Mm,
And that was so hard for him because he could see that the success was coming. It was just down the road.
Mhm.
And I was hard on him, you know, and he supports me 1,000% to do what I do now. There's been a couple times where I could have taken a full-time job.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Do you want to do a full-time job? Is this what you want to do?" And I was like, "Well, not really." Like I love to have the freedom of freelancing. If I don't want to take a trip, I can say no. If I
mm,
don't want to take an assignment, I can say no. And I love that opportunity to do that kind of stuff. Now, there's been quite a few trips that I've taken that have been incredible. Like I just got back a couple weeks ago from Pebble Beach in Monterey. It's huge. The Concours d'Elegance is this huge car show, very fancy,
It looks so
amazing
fun.
experience.
yes.
Yeah. But that means that I do have to leave my son behind with my husband. And because of that, what I learned is that they have forged an incredible bond,
Hmm.
where there's been lots of times where the mom just picks up the slack, because that's the
Mhm.
traditional role. But with Will and our son, I mean, they are so close and they're so in sync. And there was one point where I think when my son was pretty young, I gave my husband like really detailed instructions. I was like, don't forget this and be really safe about that. He goes, babe, don't you know that I love this boy as much as you do? And I was
Mm,
like, oh, like, yeah,
yeah.
I guess you're right. Like you do, but I
Yes.
I had a hard time with that. And I still like I'm really gonna miss my family while I'm at the Rebel rally, but I know that they're in good hands with each other.
I know. Yeah. What are my kids' names? Zoe is with Chris this weekend. They're doing college tours in Boston. And well, thank goodness I didn't. It's not the vertigo that kept me from going. Just originally, just cost wise, it's getting to be a little cumbersome for all four of us to fly every
Right.
time Zoe wants to tour college. So we thought that would be a really good experience. And, it reminded me of the fact that Chris did take when she was a baby, when I went back to work after maternity leave, he took 3 months off to be with her. And they had this great one on one time. And it really is, I think we do such a disservice to
Yes.
men or to the dads, not thinking they're capable of it, or maybe just overthinking that we're capable of it. And not giving them the freedom to make their decisions, do their things. I have no idea. Well, actually, I do know. They used to go to the zoo like every day because he could not stand being stuck in the house. But aside from that, I don't know what he did with her all day. I know she got her diaper changed. I know she ate food. Like
Yeah.
she survived. And I'm sure in a lot of ways he did it better than I did. And I do think there's something to be said for just giving them that opportunity. We take that from them so many times. So I know it's probably
Yeah.
a challenge for him, just like it's a challenge for any parent who is, doing the one parent thing for a particular period of time. But I'm sure that it's so good for them. So good for
Mhm.
your son. So good for Will. I think it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, and I mean, as you guys talk about, you're for a mom plus, and I
Yeah.
Yeah.
think that my son is getting to see me chase my dreams, try new things, be adventurous, reinvent myself. And that is important for him to know for when he gets married or if he has a daughter, or just looking at the world of women in general. I
Hmm.
think it is something that is going to be valuable for him as he grows.
Yeah, it's a great example. I think culturally we're coming to this place where we used to just fall into these gender norms, and I think we're just discovering that we don't have to do that, and setting an example for the children we're raising. I think they're going to live a very different kind of life with very different expectations,
Mhm.
and it's going to make things better for future generations.
I
Yes.
agree.
And now, for some of our listeners who are maybe listening, they're like, "Oh, I want to have some more flexibility in my career as well, but I'm not a writer, don't want to do freelance, whatever the case may be." You also invented such a really cool role. This was years and years ago, and this was not in the plans to talk about, but I just think it was so interesting to me then, and it's interesting to me now. The idea that you and Heidi basically split like was it a C-level job? It was a top management job.
Yes.
But both of you did not want to do full time. You wanted
Hmm.
to have the flexibility of the time, but also wanted to be using your full breadth of skills and talents. So wanted to have a job that was worthy of those, but also the flexibility. So can you talk a little bit about how that came to be and what that was like?
Sure. So, Marathon Kids is a nonprofit that helps set up running programs in schools, especially schools that don't have a lot of athletic facilities. Kids need exercise. And so they worked with Nike and they do these really cool programs and the kids keep track of how many miles they're running and stuff like that. So they were looking for a chief marketing officer. And Heidi brought the role to my attention because I was, trying to figure out how can I make more money. I wasn't, I was freelancing at the time, but not to the level that I wanted. And so I interviewed with them and they really liked me.
Mhm.
And I said to Heidi, like this job is great, but you're also interested in this job. I could
Hmm.
tell like they really like her. She'd been kind of consulting with them. I said, what do you think about splitting this job? And she was intrigued. And so I brought the idea back to Cami and she loved it. She wasn't sure how to take it at first, but
Yeah.
then they agreed and we split the job, between two different parts. She did, there was marketing and then there's communications. And we were together doing that for, I think, a year and a half or something like that. And then Heidi took over as chief marketing officer. And what Heidi learned, I think, along the way is that she's totally capable of that C-level job too.
Mm.
She hadn't been working for a while. She had 5 kids. And I think she gained the confidence she needed then to take over the role. And then
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
bowed out and went back to freelancing.
Yeah. There's so many different ways to approach
Hmm.
career flexibility and job flexibility. And sometimes, that was not a job you couldn't go through, the want ads. Are there want ads anymore? I don't know. you you couldn't go through like an Indeed or whatever and necessarily find that job, but you
Right.
might find a job and be able to think about it creatively and then approach them with a solution. And I think
Yeah.
that's what you and Heidi had to do. It wasn't that, they
Yeah.
offered
They
you,
didn't
"Hey,
come
why
to
don't
you with
you
that
why don't you
idea.
two ladies cut this job in half and work it out?"
Hmm.
So I just again, it just you're so ballsy as far as just, asking for what you want and asking for what you need, whether it be a publication that you want to write for or going there and asking for, a car that you want to borrow for a week and test drive. I just think that it's a real big lesson about in so many different areas of your life. Just ask.
Right. It doesn't
Yeah.
hurt to ask.
No,
Yeah.
this is what my mom taught me growing up. If you don't ask, you don't get. I
Mm,
mean, if you don't at least try, you're never going to know. And if they say no, then you go to plan B or whatever the next route is. But at least try. What's the worst that can
I
happen?
just you inspire me. Every time I talk to you, you inspire me about something. But today, my inspiration is just gut it up and learn to ask because I'm terrified to ask. I don't ask. I have this very much like, I don't want to bother you. I don't, oh,
mhm.
excuse me. I'm sorry. It's just so ridiculous. Like, ask. The worst
Ask.
thing is that someone tells you, nope.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. If they say no, then they just said no. Like, who cares?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, why
Do
can't I do
something
it?
else.
I'm going to go
Okay,
to
that's gonna be our throw pillow of the week, Missy.
We always want to
Just
needle
ask.
point something on a pillow or tattoo it on our foreheads. And
Just
this week
ask.
is just ask.
Just ask.
Yes. Oh my
No harm in
gosh. But
asking.
I am so bummed. I think we're hitting the end of our time here.
I know. And we need to remind all of our listeners where they can find you.
Oh yes. And where can we follow you again on the race or rally?
Oh,
Is it called a race or a rally?
it is a
It's a
rally
rally.
because it's
I
time and
know.
distance. It's not speed. So it's Rebelle, REBELLE, rally.co.
Okay, we'll
And
put it in the
then
show notes.
our team is Team Brute Squad, like from The Princess Bride.
Oh,
We are the
I
Brute
love
Squad.
That's so
Yeah.
awesome.
That's our Instagram and Facebook page.
And is there any place on social media that people could follow just you and your other writing that you do?
Yeah, they can. My handle is Kristin, Kristin, V is in Victory, Shaw, SHAW. And that's where you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. No, not Facebook. Instagram and Twitter.
Great.
And then
All right.
TikTok is Drive Mode Show. But that's just cars. Just cars.
It's fun though. I follow it. I like it.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sure there's other listeners out there that are car fans as well.
I live vicariously and imagine, what if I had that car?
I know.
I do
Right
too,
now-
since I have to give them back.
Right now, I just want the car we ordered 2 months ago for my daughter.
Yeah, where is that?
I
Where's
just
the
want
car?
a Mazda 3. Can we
Give
have
me my
that?
Mazda. That's a good car.
We'll
Have
see
they
if we
moved
have-
your timeline out, or it's just not?
They are unresponsive. They're, I think,
Oh.
tired of me asking what the heck's
Mhm.
going on. So I'm,
You'll get a car when you get
Well,
a car, lady.
well, you know what it is. It's because I keep on just like texting or emailing. I need to just pick up the phone. What is it? Is that an Enneagram 9 thing too, or is that just a me?
Pick up the
Or an
phone.
introvert thing. I don't know. I hate the
just-
telephone.
The phone. No, I don't want to dial things. But yes, I think I might have to do that today. But yes, okay. So we know where to find you. So excited to follow along on the race.
I can't wait. I
Who-
cannot
what?
wait.
I'm
We're
getting
gonna-
nervous.
We're gonna miss you in our daily text thread when
I
they
know,
take your
I
phone
know.
away.
That's a lot of days.
I
Like, we're
know,
gonna
I
have to
know.
print a little binder for you to read through everything that happens in those days.
Yes, please. Oh my gosh, how am I going to catch up? I'll be like,
You're never gonna catch up. You're just gonna have to jump in.
scroll.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
I'm back. What did I miss?
No, I seriously, if I just go out for a walk, I come back, I'm like, there's no way I can jump into this conversation. It's like double Dutch texting. I'm like, there's no way. I can't get in there.
That's a great analogy. I love that.
Totally.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
All
Well, we
right.
don't want to keep you for the rest. Well, we do want to keep you for the rest of the
I know.
afternoon, but so this is not a 2-hour show. We will start our look, listen, learns. So-
Awesome. Good. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Yes. And so if we have any new listeners, welcome. We are so glad you're here. At the end of every show, we take about 15 minutes or so to do our look, listen, learn segment where we share things that we're reading, watching, or learning. You know, some of them are life changing. Some of them are going to be whiny
Or
like mine
not.
today. Some of them are ridiculous. And we don't want to put you in the hot seat first, Kristin. So why don't we start with you, Missy?
All righty. So my look this week has been Somebody Feed Phil on Netflix. Have y'all watched Somebody Feed Phil?
No, I've
Mm-mm.
never even heard of it.
Okay. It's just really hard for me to talk about right now because I am actually ravenous and it's all about food. So it's Phil Rosenthal, and he was the creator, writer, producer of Everybody Loves Raymond. And I think that show was somewhat autobiographical for him. And his brother actually works on Somebody Feed Phil, and they do a little bit in every show where he FaceTimes with his parents, who are these adorable old people. I love them so much. And so sometimes he'll be like, oh, they'll make fun of the brother, or they want to talk to the brother and not to Phil. And so I think that Everybody Loves Raymond had some autobiographical stuff. But anyway, Somebody Feed Phil, he travels the world, goes to cities, just really dives into their food, meets the people, talks about the culture. There are 5 or 6 seasons, I think, on Netflix. And he is, Suzanne and I talk about our pocket people. Like, you're so
Yes.
adorable. You want to put them in your pocket and keep them all the time. I want Phil in my pocket. He is such an adorable dork, and he is passionate about food and people and is kind. And so it's our current, Mark and I watch an episode or so a day.
Oh my
We have a lot
gosh.
of time. We talked in our text last night about how my kids, like, their schedule doesn't align with ours, and we rarely eat dinner together these days because they're at practice when we're eating. So
Yep.
while we eat our dinner, we watch Phil.
Oh,
Anyway, it's adorable. Highly recommend it. It's a
Oh.
family-friendly show for sure. We just watch it without our kids because they're
Okay.
not home.
We need a new one because we just, well, not that it's family friendly, but we're watching Stranger Things as a family. And my son just mentioned the other day, he's like, I think maybe that final season should have been rated R.
Possibly.
I don't think I'm old enough for that. What'd you do? Okay, so maybe we'll move this.
Somebody Feet definitely very different vibe than Stranger Things, for sure. Just so sweet and wholesome, and I love it. I love it. I love it. So I recommend that. And then here is I guess it's a learn, is this CeraVe itch relief cream.
Oh.
When you're a woman of a certain age,
I was
you
going to
may
say,
have experienced
what's itchy?
this. Thanks. Watch it. No, my legs. I have since learned after this happened to me that in menopause, your hormones go crazy and everything changes. Dry skin is one of the things that happens. I don't feel like my skin is dry, but it's itchy. And my legs will sometimes itch, and I'll have a day where they're just terribly itchy. And then some days it's not. And I've tried all kinds of things and exfoliating and moisturizing. And I try to drink plenty of water and everything you can do for your skin, I have done. But still some days my shins itch. It's maddening. So I was walking through Walgreens the other day to pick up Band-Aids for my son for the infected foot that y'all know about. I'm going to talk about that in a second.
Don't share photos of that.
But I saw this on the shelf, and I happened to be having a day where my shins were kind of itchy, and I was like, oh my God, I'm trying that. No steroids. It's got ceramides. I don't know how you say that. And it works. I don't know if it's psychosomatic or what, but it works. So if you have sunburn, bug bites, old lady skin, whatever it might be, give it a go. I highly recommend it.
That CeraVe, every dermatologist I've ever been to, there's so many fancy $1 million things that you can buy, and everybody always says CeraVe and Cetaphil. That's all that they want you to use.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, I know you and I both use the cleanser because one of us had nighttime and one of us had daytime, and mom too.
Hey, I'll let you borrow morning if I can use night.
Yeah. No, it's good stuff. So, and my learn, I will try to be brief. Because I also don't want to step on Suzanne's look, listen, learn. I think she's going to build a little bit on this trusting your gut thing. But my son injured his foot in a weird accident at swim practice. And my gut was, we should go to the doctor and get it looked at. And I didn't listen to my gut. And I listened to my 16-year-old, and he is a very responsible, on top of it kid, but he's still a kid. And he kept saying, it's fine, it's healing, it's fine. And then I finally looked at it a few days later. It was probably 5 days later, because he was still dealing with it. I'm like, I want to look at it if you're still dealing with it. And it was infected.
Oh, yikes.
So I think if we gone to the doctor right away, we probably would have done some different things with it. And so then we had to catch up and fix it. So he's on a course of antibiotics now and doing topical antibiotics. And it is healing. He's going to be fine, but it's gross. And it wouldn't have had to have been gross if I had listened to my mom gut, put my foot down with my 16-year-old know-it-all and said, we're going to go. We're going to take off of school and we're going to go and get this looked at by a professional. I just watch medical dramas on TV. I'm not an actual doctor.
So poor kid. Poor mom.
Listen to your gut. Try to remind myself. So
that
is me. What about you, Kristin?
So right now, I am watching Cobra Kai. It's the cheesiest guilty pleasure ever, and I love it. So my son and I watched it together, and there's been a couple things I've had to explain to him what they are, but less so than Community, because I had to explain a lot of things in Community to my son that I didn't know I was going to have to explain to him at the time. But it did open the door to some good conversations, and I think Cobra Kai does the same thing. It's just a lot of fun. I'm also reading. I'm reading a couple of books. These are both related to the Rebel Rally. This is a kid's book, How to Go Anywhere and Not Get Lost. I highly recommend it. It's from the library. Highly recommend it because it tells you how to navigate with the stars, how to navigate, pay attention to where the moss is on the tree, based on the wind. I mean, it's just really, really cool, really interesting. And then this one is Be Expert with map and compass. So I have a lot to learn with that.
Did you know how to use a compass before?
No, I really didn't. I didn't. Red in the shed. That's what you got to know. I don't have my compass nearby, or I'd show you. But you have to put the little red needle inside the red box to get to magnetic north. And then that helps you figure out where west and east and south are.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
I know, it's crazy. So,
that's the thing. If I got lost in the woods, even if I had a compass, I'd get lost because I don't even know how to use the compass.
Same. I'm married to a freaking Eagle Scout. He knows. But he
Wow.
might not be with me.
Yes.
True.
And
That's
I know how to
fascinating.
look at the sky and see where the sun is, but I have to know east or west. Like if I don't know where I am and I don't know, and the sun's, I don't know. Anyway,
That should be one of our Moms Who Dare lessons.
Yes.
Kristin can teach us to use a compass.
Yes.
Sure.
Oh, I love it.
And then the last thing I have, listen, learn, and what's the last thing?
Look, listen, learn. And
learn.
you don't have to do all three unless you
Well,
want.
here's this thing I'm really excited about. These are Bluetooth enabled sunglasses.
What?
So yeah, from Bose. They sent me these because I can use them I could listen to music if I had like a nano, because we can't have an iPhone, obviously. But you can listen to
Right.
music like when you run or whatever. I mean, I think it's so cool. Sunglasses
I think
that I can listen to music.
What? How's it get in your ear?
It's got like a little microphone in there.
just right back here.
Yeah. Integrated mic, Bluetooth enabled, UVA, UVB protection, polarized lenses. I cannot wait
That is
So
to
cool.
wear these on
cool.
the rally. So yeah, that's what I got.
Okay,
I
I'm
love
jealous.
it.
Yeah,
I know I've added to my must buy.
we need a full report on those.
A full review.
Yes. All right.
All right, Suzanne, you're up.
Okay. I'm looking at photos of my husband and daughter that they are sending me from Boston because I want a full report back on these college tours that they're doing. I think they are currently at the School and Museum of Fine Arts, Tufts. It's a very interesting thing. The School Museum of Fine Arts was bought by Tufts, but you also, Northeastern students who are in the studio arts program have access to the SMFA. So no matter which school, she needs to like tour this area. I don't know. It's a whole thing.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
yes, so she's going to be touring. I mean, they are literally back to back. Like there's going to be some running today.
Yeah.
It was a lot easier to plan it that way, knowing that I was not going to have to be there. So, good luck.
to you.
Good luck, honey. So that's really fun. Again, I just think it's amazing to give your husband an opportunity to have one-on-one time with the kids. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think they've ever flown or like traveled this extensively together alone. I just think it's a really special thing, especially before we launch her out into the world.
So cool.
Yes. And then listen. Okay. So listening to the gut again. So everybody's been following the history of my vertigo for the past month. And so I
Months,
finally,
a long time to be dizzy.
I know. And I finally, after trying different things, and I had other health stuff that was going on with my kids that I've been focused on. And finally, I was just like, you know what? I should probably get this checked out. But I got a call back from the doctor's office yesterday, and they're like, we just need to let you know this appointment's going to be virtual. And I was like, I think it's probably an inner ear thing. And I feel like you really need the thing to go in there, like the little whatever that instrument's called that they shove in your ear.
Reach
Oh,
through
Yeah, I mean, I was like, put your ear up to the microphone. Or so I listened to my gut. I was like, nothing's going to get accomplished. I'm going to spend $60 or whatever, and nothing's going to happen. So I was like, well, perhaps do you have another doctor who's braver? I don't know. And I don't want to talk smack about doctors because they really put themselves in the line of fire. I mean, the fact that what they have done during COVID, like I do not want to smack talk doctors, but I also know that I've been over the past month in multiple medical scenarios for my children where like no one in the office is even wearing masks anymore. So I was like, I have taken the COVID test. I don't have a fever. I don't have any of this stuff. I get this vertigo all the time. I know you just need to look at my ear. Like I'm trying to reassure them that I am safe. And they're like, well,
you're telling them.
Yes, I am. And she's like, well, I have found someone who's agreed to see you, but you need to come in double masked. And I was like, fine, whatever I need to do. And so this doctor ended up running an EKG, like a series of 3 different blood pressure tests from like lying down, sitting up, standing up, like all this stuff. And in the end, it ended up being the inner ear fluidy thing, which you need to have the thing in the ear, not through the Zoom to do.
Yeah.
And, I've gotten to the age where I have spent a lifetime of getting misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed or being told that a symptom that I have is not a real symptom or that I don't.
Right.
So I'm just done with it. So I am going to be, and I'm sure there's a flag in my file now, but when someone is not giving me the care that I think that is going to be needed to keep me healthy, I'm going to speak up. So I encourage y'all to do the same because the fun drugs I'm on now, like I don't think he would have known to prescribe those. I think it probably would have been a sit and wait.
Yep.
Or I would have probably just got a bunch of antibiotics or something because they would have said, oh, maybe an ear infection. And then I would have been on these unnecessary antibiotics.
Right.
So, anyway.
Good for you.
Good for you. Yep.
So that was that. And then I am learning about, again, this is a very medical episode. It's all about cars and medicine here. So I'm learning about scoliosis. So my son was diagnosed, and I have learned that most boys get checked at school in the 5th and the 8th grade. Well, my son's a 7th grader. And I mean, if we had waited until 8th grade, he would have been 100% a surgery candidate. His curve is at 40%, and at 45%, it's an automatic, you're having surgery.
Wow.
And I feel bad because we did have a pediatrician who caught it, but kind of was just kind of like, oh, he's got the scoliosis. And my husband had always told me that he had scoliosis, but back in the 80s, they would just be like, you got the scoliosis, so goodbye.
Off you go. Have a great life.
And so I didn't realize that it was so progressive, so fast, like what it had to do with their growth spurts and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And again, it was just kind of the thing, the pediatrician, how they have them touch their toes and whatever. And he's like, oh, yeah, he's got it. And he's like, you might want to get this x-rayed, and, gave me an x-ray for him. And, we lost precious months because I didn't realize how serious and how quick it could progress. So I just encourage, because this is one of those things, it's not like Dr. Google where you're self-diagnosing. There are some things that you can do to get a pretty good baseline, like maybe this needs to get checked before the 8th grade with the toe touching. We'll put a link to that because boys, first of all, are such a small percentage. It's mostly girls who get it. And so, I told him, I said, probably next year, first of all, it's going to be really funny when you have to go to the nurse's office to get checked for scoliosis. And you're like, here's my brace, knock on it.
Don't check me.
Yes.
But I said, you're probably going to be a really good source of information for during that time period, because I guess that's going to come up in the 8th grade. So yeah, if that is something that your doctor has ever mentioned, whether you have a boy or girl or any gender, take it seriously, more seriously than I did. And then if you are in a case where maybe you don't have access to regular pediatric care, and you're waiting on the school to do that for your son in the 8th grade, maybe check the Google link that we're going to put up so you can check for yourself. Ask the school nurse if it's something that they could do ahead of time. Especially Texas is an area where we have it, they call it red shirts or whatever, where we have a bunch of really old 7th graders. And so this is a rule of thumb based on where kids would usually be at the age in the 8th grade. And you may have some 7th graders who are at that age. And
kids all grow at different paces. I mean, your son's very tall. He grew early.
Well, no, he hasn't even started growing. They do a weird thing where they
he still has a lot to go. Yeah.
They x-ray your hand to see like where you are on the scale of whatever. And this riser score he has, he's a 0 out of 5. And he's 5'9" and he's 12. So
whoa,
he's going to be a giant.
So, I mean, but again, that's another point of how important it is, because if it had gone a few more months and he had progressed, and he may even in the brace still progress, you just never know. It's a tricky little condition, but that would have been like an automatic, this vertebrae, fuse them. And so, I mean, think of this kid who's at the 0 out of 5 of his growing if he had to fuse all his vertebrae. So yeah, it's something not to mess with. And I did not know that. So I have learned that. And I'm hoping that maybe one of you will learn it too and get your little kiddo checked.
Yeah. Listen to the gut again.
Yeah. Listen to the gut. Speak up.
Moms know. We know. We talk ourselves out of it sometimes, but we know.
Well, you know what? And I also think hopefully we're at the tail end of this COVID, but so much of it was originally as like weighing the risks, like, do we have the risk of COVID to go, get these x-rays, or do we, it's just a weird mental game that moms have to make these weird decisions. Do we send them to school and risk this? Do we do, it's not easy. Pat yourselves on the back, moms. You're doing a good job.
Yep.
But yeah, so that's my Look, Listen, Learns for this week.
Awesome. Well, thank you for doing this, Kristin. So much
I
fun to
loved
have you
it.
here.
Thank you. It's so nice to talk to you too anytime.
Oh, well, yeah, literally, we'll probably go downstairs and talk to you some more.
We'll talk to you in a minute.
We're literally going to
I'll
talk to you
in
the
a
rest of the day.
Great.
Oh my goodness. Well,
And
thank you.
too, I want to throw it out there too. If anybody has young adults or even teenagers that want to talk about what it's like to be in this business, I'm totally open to questions about it and
That's awesome.
can advise people, because I think you've got to help each other to get to where you want to go. And having a mentor or having somebody who can at least give you some tips is really important.
You are so
That's
generous
very
and
generous.
kind and lovely. And that's why we love you.
Yeah.
I love you guys too.
Oh, well, all right. Before we go too far in our love fest, we'll say goodbye for this week, and we'll
Bye.
see y'all next week. All right.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you so much for joining us for the Mom and ... podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show today. And if you know someone else who could benefit from today's episode, be sure to share it with them. Also, please subscribe and rate us wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find links to all the things we discussed today in the show notes over at our website, momandpodcast.com, with the AND spelled out. In between shows, you can find us at the socials, including our private Mom and Community Facebook group. You can find links to the group, all of our socials, and our questions and comments section over at our website, momandpodcast.com. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate you so much. Now go out there and make your ellipses count.